Welcome to the Next Level Human podcast. As a human, you have a job to do. In fact, you have 4 jobs: to earn and manage money, to attain and maintain health and fitness, to build and sustain personal relationships, to find meaning and make a difference. None of these jobs are taught in school, and that is what this podcast is designed to do: to educate us all on living our most fulfilled lives through the mastery of these 4 jobs. I'm your host, Dr. Jade, Teta, and I believe we are here living this life for 3 reasons and 3 reasons only: to learn, to teach, and to love. In this podcast, I will be learning, teaching, and loving right along with you. I'm grateful to have your company. Here's to our next level. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. This is Dr. Jade, Teta. Today, we are going to be talking mindset stuff and some of the next level human work that I do. Obviously, this podcast, I've gone back and forth on the name of this podcast several times. The Jade Teta podcast, Mind, Muscle, Metabolism, Next Level Human. It's kind of all 3. It's kind of what I wanted to be a mix of my work in mindset, personal development, as well as fitness, strength, and conditioning, and of course, natural medicine, metabolism, weight loss. I absolutely adore and love self-help, self-development. I minored in psychology, and I feel like I really kind of majored in psychology my whole life after I went through my first breakup at 18 years old. This is something that a lot of people don't know about me. I oftentimes laugh with my friends and family because I say, it's interesting that I'm known as the metabolism guy, because if you really asked me what I thought my greatest area of expertise is, and of course my greatest interest, it really is in personal development and the realm of self-help and bettering ourselves as a human. And so over the last several years, I've really put a lot of emphasis into that work. Now, of course, personal development is very similar and obviously, inextricably linked to physical development. And so the two things kind of make sense. I can't remember what episode it was in this podcast, but one of these episodes, I introduced several different philosophies, the Stoic philosophy and also the Next Level Human sort of work. And I think I introduced some of these concepts we're going to talk about today, but I really want to get into something that a lot of people have a very strong interest in, and that's the idea of some of my work that talks about the 4 jobs of every human being. And that's what we're going to talk about today. From my perspective, there really is 4 jobs that every human must do, whether you like it or not. Failure to do any of these 4 jobs typically results in a life that is not easy and or unsatisfactory and creates more difficult than it needs to be. Now, I don't know what your belief system is. Some of you are religious, some of you are not, some of you are spiritual. Some of you believe in, sort of conscious capitalism, and others of you believe in sort of more socialist things. We all come from, sort of a very varying backgrounds and belief systems. And these 4 jobs really, in my mind, transcend all those belief systems. And certainly there might be some overlap depending on you, but these jobs are things that you need to do and take care of regardless. They also tend to be 4 things that we do not get taught. They typically are not taught in schools. They typically are not something you can get a degree in, so to speak. They're these things that you kind of have to figure out. You emulate other people. You learn the hard way. They're very difficult to sort of understand. And a lot of people aren't doing these well. Usually we have 1 or 2 of these areas that we mightily struggle in. Very few people get all 4 of them done well, correctly. And some of us aren't doing any of these well. And as you listen to this podcast, I just want you to sort of think about this for a minute. Whenever we talk about personal development, especially when you're listening to someone like me talk about a framework that they have put together from a sociological perspective and psychological perspective, it's easy for us to be like, oh, this doesn't fit my worldview. It doesn't fit my religion or my spiritual beliefs or my, political leanings or whatever. And what I would ask you to do is just listen and listen with an open mind. Part of what I believe we humans make a big mistake with is we don't typically have these kinds of conversations except with ourselves and our tribe who already believes what we believe. And so we end up in this sort of echo chamber or bubble where all of our beliefs and our way of seeing the world are sort of reverberated back to us, and we can easily live our entire lives without getting out of that shell, without ever leaving that protective bubble of the tribe. And whenever you're listening to personal development type of work, that's the whole purpose of it. The whole purpose of it is for you to expand your awareness. The way that I like to describe this, back in my early 20s, I did a self-development training called the Landmark Education. Some of you may have heard of that. And they had a distinction that I really liked. And the distinction went like this. It basically said, there are things in life that we know that we know. And there are things that in life that we know we don't know. And then there are all the things that we don't know we don't know. And most of knowledge, 99.99% of knowledge, is in the area of the things we don't know we don't know. Let me make that a little bit more tangible for you because I know it can be a little bit confusing. What do I mean by there are things you know that you know? Well, you know that you know how to drive a car. I can go get in my car right now and I know I can drive myself from point A to point B. I know how to use the steering wheel, the gas, the brakes, the turn signals, etc. I know that I know how to drive a car. Now, if you put me in a plane, I definitely know that I do not know how to fly a plane. I could not take that plane off. So I know I don't know how to do that. But then there are things that I didn't know, meaning there are ideas, there are perceptions, there are types of things and exposures and experiences that I had no idea even existed. One example of this would be in the realm of, let's say, metabolism, right? Let's say you know a little bit about metabolism and you know a little bit about calories in and calories out and macros. And maybe you don't know much about rheumatoid arthritis. But then there are some things that you didn't know until you hear of them. Something like metabolic endotoxemia, or the idea that you have all these bacteria living in your gut that are sending hormonal signals throughout the body that are adjusting and changing our metabolism. Once you learn that, you go, oh my God, what? That is so unique. That's so interesting. And it opens up a whole world of study for you. And it even explains some things like why you might get achy joints and muscles the day after you have a pizza binge, right? And so once you get exposed to some of these things you didn't know, they can change your world. And so the reason I bring that up is because when we're talking about personal development and these ideas around that, especially in my work, in my sort of next level human work, which is the way I conceptualize and develop sort of my ideas around being better and growing as a human in sort of mental and emotional sort of growth. I want you to think about it from that perspective. Pay attention to the things that challenge your belief systems. Some of the things I say, you might say, yeah, I agree with that. Some you don't. That's the whole point. Just try these ideas on for size and see if they can make a difference for you. The whole point is for this podcast and this education in particular to help you get a better handle on your life, where you're weak, how to control these things. So let's enter into this with that sort of idea in mind. Now, what are these 4 human jobs, the way that I see this? Well, first of all, you have to earn and manage money, right? Now, this bothers some people. This is the first job we all must do. We must earn a living. We have to manage our expenses, right? We need to earn money, save money, and manage money. Now, a lot of people get upset about this idea because they might have different beliefs around money. Maybe some people believe money is the root of all evil, right? And so this bothers people that this is one of the jobs, but you have to make a living. I would essentially say, because some people might say, well, aren't there people who, let's say a stay-at-home mom or dad, where the mother or the father is the major breadwinner in the family? They're not necessarily earning and managing and saving money. And I would say that, yes, they are. They're earning a living. They're essentially doing it by proxy. They are essentially part of that particular unit. So they are earning a living. You might even say, well, what about the person who's essentially living on the street? They still have to essentially find and procure things of value, food, clothing, shelter, in a sense. This is a form of earning and managing money, or making a living rather. This includes things like saving for the future, managing where your money goes, investment savvy, your personal financial IQ, asset management, or any kind of entrepreneurial pursuits. This is something we must do. We must earn and manage money. This is job number 1. Now, the second job we must do is we have to build and attain and maintain our physical health. We must take care of our physical health. This is about managing stress. This is about building strength and power and aerobic capacity, and eating healthily, and managing our weight, and all these kinds of things. At a very high level, if we don't have our health, we can't do much, right? Imagine if you're sick all the time and you don't have the energy to get up and go out of the house, you're probably not going to be able to earn and manage money. So you can think about which one of these things that you would put in hierarchy, but it's obvious that we must attain and maintain our physical health. If we die because we're ill, we obviously are not doing the job anymore. We can't do that job, right? We need to have a degree of health in order to function. So job number 1, earn and manage money. Job number 2, we have to build and maintain our physical health. Job number 3 is we humans are community-based organisms. We have to find and cultivate personal relationships. We have to give and receive love. We cannot basically survive on our own. Humans are not islands unto themselves. We are essentially pack animals. So we have to connect and communicate. We have to collaborate and contribute. We have to contribute to others and grow them and teach them, and we must learn and grow from them. Obviously, the parent-child relationship is the first sort of introduction we get into this. We have to rely on other people for a lot of things. And obviously, this overflows into the job we just talked about, right? We know that if you are alone, if you put someone in solitary confinement, which is why it's so miserable, they can go essentially crazy and their physical health can deteriorate. So these jobs are linked to each other as well. And this is where sort of, we'll get into this a little bit, but probably the 2 most important relationships that we have are the personal relationships with our parents and siblings and immediate family. And then, of course, one of the most consequential relationships that all of us will deal with is the romantic partnerships that we have in life. Very important. So 1, earn and manage money. 2, build and maintain physical health. 3, give and receive love. And then the 4th job is sort of what I would call the transcendent job. It's the job about creating purpose and meaning and making a difference in life. This is a job we must do. This is essentially about taking your signature strengths and using them for good in the world in a way that you are uniquely suited to do to contribute to the world, to make a difference, to decide how you're going to make meaning and generate purpose out of life, right? This is about really about becoming the next level human. It's about living a purpose-driven life. It's about making the world better in only the way that you can. It's about learning, teaching, and loving. This is the idea here. And I want to get into each of these jobs, but before I do, let me interrupt the show just for a few minutes because I want to tell you about one of our sponsors, Evolve Telemed. One of the questions I get all of the time, one of the services that you are asking me for constantly is hormone replacement therapy. Women going through menopause, women going through perimenopause, women in postmenopause, women under stressful situations who are dealing with low sex hormone levels, estrogen and progesterone, are constantly asking me about progesterone therapy or estrogen and progesterone therapy. And men, same thing, constantly asking me about testosterone replacement therapy. Plenty of you, many of you, always asking, Jade, can you prescribe me hormones? I need testosterone if you're a man, or I need estrogen and progesterone or testosterone if you're a woman. And I always have to say that I am no longer seeing patients in this way because my educational duties are keeping me so busy. And this is where Evolve Telemed comes in. I have been looking for a company that does bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, and that is critically important. If you're going to be doing HRT or TRT, HRT being hormone replacement therapy for women, TRT being testosterone replacement therapy for men, if you are going to do these therapies, you want the bioidentical hormones. You want the hormones that your body makes naturally, that your body can recognize, that is no different from the hormones your body would make if you were making adequate levels. Bioidentical hormone replacement therapy does just this. And Evolve Telemed is a company that I am now using for my own testosterone replacement needs and have been super impressed with the way that they have structured their business model. And so I am now bringing this service to you through my partnership with Evolve Telemed. Essentially, the way this works is you go online, you make an appointment with Evolve. Evolve gets a doctor with you on a Zoom call. They go through your whole case. They go through your blood labs. They then prescribe your hormones directly to you, and you can get those hormones wherever you are. You do not have to go to a clinic near you. All you need is to have an internet access point, and you can meet with an expert in bioidentical hormone replacement therapy and get those prescriptions. Now you can see why this is so powerful, can't you? Because this is something that so many of us need and can benefit from for our aging needs, our sexual health needs. These things have profound impact on mood, hair, skin, erections, libido, you name it. These things do everything for our metabolic health and vitality. So I am incredibly excited to bring Evolve Telemed to you. Now, the link that you go to is drjade.com/hormones. drjade.com/hormones. This will bring you to the Evolve Telemed portal. If you use the code NEXTLEVEL, you will get a discount on checkout for your first patient visit. I'm very excited to be able to bring this to you, and I hope you will use Evolve Telemed. I know you're going to find it extremely powerful to move your hormone needs over to them. Check them out, Evolve Telemed. Use the link drjade.com/hormones. drjade.com/hormones for Evolve Telemed. And let's get back to the show. I want to walk you through what I do with a lot of people when I work with them in a coaching format, in terms of I do a lot of business coaching with high-end sort of CEOs and top-level executives and athletes and things like that, a lot of mindset and personal development coaching. And one of the first things that I do when I'm working with someone as a coach, even if I'm just simply working on their health and fitness goals, is I want to triage and sort of measure how well they're doing these 4 jobs. And so I want to do this with you now and give you an idea of how this works. So on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being like you really feel like you have this particular job nailed, you're doing it perfectly. Or 1, you're not doing it well at all. So for example, managing and earning and saving money, you would be, if you're at a level 10, you have no money worries whatsoever. You got savings in the bank. You have, entrepreneurial pursuits down, investments, assets everywhere. You're earning well, you're saving well, you're managing well. You have plenty of money. Money's no worry at all. Versus that would be a 10. Versus a 1, you're essentially living on the street or close to living paycheck to paycheck. If one thing wrong happens, you are essentially on the street or not able to pay rent, etc. So where are you in this? And the way I like to do this with money is just think about it a third, and a third, right? How well are you earning? How well are you managing? And how well are you saving your money? And just give yourself a rank on this, 1 to 10. Where are you? And I will do myself and try to be as honest as I can here so you can get a sense of this. I have been lucky in the last 10, 15 years, and I earn very, very well. In the top, all of us probably in the Western world are in the top 1% in the world, but I am making very close to what I've always dreamed about making. Now, that is great. So a third of that, I'm great. I'm already up at a 3 or 4 just from that. But what about saving and managing? Well, I haven't been a good saver throughout most of my life. And I've also used a lot of my money to build businesses to get me to the earning capacity I currently am. And I'm still making up for some of that debt. So I would say saving money is not my strong suit. And managing, I'm getting better and better at that every day as I'm trying to educate and increase my financial IQ. So I would say in the financial realm, I'm definitely above average. So I would probably say I'm about 6 or 7, but maybe not at the place that a lot of people might think I am. I'll say I'm at a 6. Now, for health, physical health and fitness and that kind of thing, I also kind of break this down into, okay, how are you doing 1 to 10 with your weight management? How are you doing 1 to 10 sort of with your fitness? And how are you doing 1 to 10 with sort of your health parameters? So for example, if you're 30 pounds overweight, you couldn't run a mile if someone told you they'd give you $1 million to do it. And your cholesterol levels and blood sugars and all that kind of stuff, you're dealing with some kind of disease like diabetes or autoimmunity or something like that, right? Then you'd be like maybe at a 1. A 10 would be you are working out every day. You can do 40 push-ups, no problem. You can run a mile in under 10 minutes. You can, do all the physical fitness-oriented things. You have a 6-pack. And are relatively lean, 10% body fat for a male, under 20, low 20s to high teens for a woman in body composition. You can do all the fitness things. And when you look at your blood labs, blood sugars, insulin, blood pressures, heart rates, things like that, they're all in sort of good working order. Rank yourself in that regard. So for me, I would say I have some health issues. I have hypothyroid. And this is funny because a lot of people say, hey, Jade, you're the metabolism guy. You're the health and fitness guy. But I just want to be honest with you because you'll see where we'll go with these 4 jobs. So as I rank my health and fitness, I feel like ever since sort of my late 20s, when I went through a very stressful period of time at medical school and bartending at the same time and personal training, and I diagnosed myself with hypothyroid. I've been what I would describe sort of this muscle fat guy. I'm also a guy I'm Italian. I love pasta. I love wine. I love sweets. So I can struggle in this area a little bit. At the same time, I do work out. I'm very strong. I'm 45 and I'm still squatting 405 pounds for 10. I can still bench press near the 400 mark. I can The one thing I can't do, actually, which is hilarious because I just tried to do it the other day, is I still can't really run a mile in under 10 minutes. I'm not a cardio guy, and I'm also 5'10", 225, 230 pounds. I may be pushing even above 230 right now because I'm a little bit in my fat stage. I keep saying that. Usually I'm getting lean around this time, but I'm slow to the mark this time around. But I struggle a little bit in this area, and my cardiovascular fitness is not great. And I also have some challenges. I have higher cholesterol levels, which isn't really a big deal, except I have, borderline high blood pressure. I'm fatigued. My hypothyroid bothers me a little bit. So I would say that my health and fitness, surprisingly for a lot of people, because people look at me and they say, wow, you're this super fit looking guy oftentimes. But if you really see me and look at my parameters, I'm probably around a 5 in health and fitness. So this might surprise people a little bit. I consider myself, and maybe I'm being a little bit hard on myself, but I want you to rank where you are in this. Now, in personal relationships, giving and receiving love, what you want to be looking at is you want to be looking at how is your family unit doing? How is your romantic relationship? Is it healthy? Do you have one? And then how are your friends? So you see how I break each of these down into 3 different parts? So for me, I am very, very tight and very, very lucky with my immediate family. I would give that a 10. In my romantic relationships, I'm not, dating anyone seriously right now, but I have individuals who I am romantic with, who I am very honest and upfront with, and they're very honest and upfront with me. And these are really beautiful, great relationships that I get a lot out of. And it's all sort of safe and fun and good. And these are people who I have deep connections with. So I feel like I'm at a 10 there as well. And then sort of in my friend area, sort of my friends, I have very, very good friends. And I would say a lot of my friends would say I tend to get very focused on work. So I'm not the best always on keeping up with individuals the way they do with me. But I feel like I got a lot of people that I can go to. So when I think about personal relationships, romance and immediate family and close friends, I'm up near 9 for that. I feel like I'm really set in that particular area. And of course, I feel really good about that. And then, of course, in the purpose and meaning department, I look at this like this. I break this down into meaning and purpose and, sort of this happiness quotient. How much of my time. So a 10 in creating meaning and purpose would be sort of looking at it from the perspective of I go through most of my day and I feel like I matter, I'm making a difference, I have worth. The work that I'm doing is contributing in some sort of meaningful way, not just for myself, but for others. And so when I break this down for myself, again, I'm at near a 9. Now, if you want to think about where you are with this, one distinction that's interesting here is the difference between meaning and purpose. Meaning is something that you can derive from many different areas. You can get meaning from experiences, right? You can look at a sunset and derive sort of a deep sense of meaning and connectedness to the world. You can get meaning from putting your effort into your kids or, your job, but that can give you meaning. But those things are typically fleeting when they go away. When the sunset sets, that meaning, purpose goes away. When the kids graduate from high school, that meaning goes away. When the job is done, the meaning kind of goes away. But meaning is important. Purpose is a little bit deeper than meaning because purpose is really about something that you feel that you have always with you. So, my purpose is in my creative pursuits and writing books and doing educational programs and building businesses that make a difference. Purpose is really about not just how I feel in the moment, but sort of a legacy type of thing. Not legacy from an ego perspective, but what will be left after me that made the world a little bit better. Not that anyone will remember me, but perhaps, hopefully, I feel like my work is contributing to other people's meanings and to making other people's lives better. And also, the next idea is, what about this idea of just fulfillment? Do I feel like I've sort of achieved the things that I want to achieve? We know from happiness psychology that, Martin Seligman, the father of happiness psychology, tells us that achievement for achievement's sake is one major piece of happiness for humans. We oftentimes want to deny this because it's not seen as something that we should, do. It's not looked highly upon, but we want to achieve. And this fulfillment comes from, sort of having this purposeful thing and this goal set that we are actually achieving things and leaving things finished by the time our life ends. So when you think about when you're measuring this purpose and make a difference factor, you want to be thinking about what's my meaning, what's my purpose, and what's my level of fulfillment. So there I'm at, I feel like, a 9 as well. I feel very settled here. So here I have these two things. Finances, I'm at a 6. Health and fitness, I'm at a 5. Personal relationships and things like that, I'm at like a 9. And purpose and meaning and fulfillment, I'm at like a 9. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about where you came out in these 4 particular jobs. And very quickly, you can see where you want to be spending most of your attention. So for me, I really should be focusing most of my attention where? Back onto my physical health, which is ironic, right? Because that's mainly what I teach for a living is in metabolism, personal health, physical health, those kinds of things. And so this really tells you an awful lot about where you should be focusing in your jobs by doing this quick triage. And what I would say here is that most people, when you look at them, you will see a big imbalance in this. And I'll say a couple things here really quickly, because where do you think most people, if they're weekend, which areas do they go through? If you've ever been exposed to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where do you think, sort of your first needs sort of come from? If I was going to kind of rank these, well, they're tricky, right? But obviously we need to feel like we have shelter, and we need to also feel like we have health. And so I feel like the earning a living, having a roof over our head, making money, and physical health are definitely probably 1 and 2 for most people. You can make a strong argument for relationships as well, and then sort of purpose and meaning come out of having those other ones balanced. But one of the things that I've found happens with many people is that they will neglect one or more of these jobs for another one of these jobs. The classic example here is someone who is constantly looking for and focused on romantic relationships at the expense of their money maybe and their physical health. Or another one might be the classic businessman who's overworked, makes great money, but's also fat and divorced. This is the kind of thing that we humans get ourselves into. And so the whole point of this particular podcast is to draw your attention into each of these areas. Now, I want to, there's nothing that's really going to come out of this today. Some of my work goes through, and some of the books that I have written and will write in this area will go through exactly what to do here. But the take homes here to do is to first look at the things that you are weak in, the areas that you are weak in, and begin to fix those areas. So, for example, for me, what I may want to do is take an investing course or read up on books about saving and finance and the millionaire mindset and all these kinds of things. I'm earning well, but if I'm just buying fancy cars and traveling all over the place and burning through that income, am I really being strong in that area? So there are ways to educate myself in these jobs. This is the point. This is the point about opening up your mind and saying, I know that I need to transcend some of my family inherited money mindsets, and or I need to stop doing certain things like buying cars and spending all this, money out. I tend to like to be very generous with friends and family, and oftentimes I can blow through money that way. That's part of why I have such cultivated great relationships and have a good sense of purpose and meaning, but I might need to balance that. So what you want to do is you want to be thinking about, where do I begin to focus my attention? For example, if I'm already strong in relationships and I'm already a 9 there, I don't want to start neglecting those to get it weak, but I may want to start putting more emphasis and energy into the earning money and building my physical health point of view. And this is why this is so important, because what I have come to see is that almost all individuals who are struggling in life are struggling in one of these four areas, and they're not even aware of it until a moment just like now. All of a sudden, you hear this podcast, which is the reason I wanted to do this, and you go, I didn't know that I didn't know that. I was not even aware of these four sort of areas, and that I am falling down in one of them. And all I need to do now is, once I've sort of seen where my weak areas are, then I can begin to educate myself, take courses, read books, start to focus my attention in those weak areas and make them strong. We need to have all four of these jobs balanced. I would say we need to have all of them at a 5 or above for us to really feel like we've got control over our lives. This is why this is so important. And this is why some of the coursework and books and mentorships and exposures to things, travel and all these things can help with this. But of course, if you're someone that has no money or traveling makes you eat worse, like someone like me, let's say, if I didn't have the money to travel and every time I traveled, I just got fatter and sicker, that might not be a good idea. So you want to look at ways to bolster these four areas. I think it's very important. The one thing I want to say here around purpose and meaning, because it's the one that trips up people the most, is this idea of people say, well, Jade, how did you get so good in that area? Is it simply because you're a creator and you put out creative works and that's what does it? Well, I'll tell you what it was. When I went through my sort of deepest sort of troubling time in life, my sort of rock bottom sort of midlife crisis, which I now call a midlife awakening. I was married. I'm still incredibly close with my ex-wife. We're still very close friends, but I was disappointed, embarrassed, kind of disgusted with myself after what went down. I had an affair. I was being a person that I did not respect, or I was a coward. And that when you wake up in a sense and see your deep pain and your suffering, mine looked like that. Other people's deep pain and suffering will be their illnesses or financial ruin or reputational ruin. Any of these kinds of things, we all through life will have pain and suffering. And the idea to generate purpose and meaning is that, from my perspective, pain is the path to meaning and fulfillment. In other words, that's the area that teaches you the lessons that you then can go out and teach others and make sure they don't make the same mistakes. That's where the purpose and meaning comes from. When you can take your signature strengths, your unique experience and lessons, and pass them on in a way to bolster and help others, that's where you generate that kind of fulfillment and meaning and purpose in life. That's what worked well for me. So I'm going to stop rambling on here, but I wanted to give you an introduction into the 4 human jobs, help you understand how to triage these and rank them for yourself so you can begin to be aware of these things and then begin to think about, okay, how do I now go about bolstering these 4 jobs, and what are the ramifications to this? And is this why certain things are working? And I've had these, continually repeating, frustrating patterns in life, is because I'm not doing very good in the realm of cultivating personal relationships, especially in the romantic realm, or I don't have a good relationship with my immediate family. And by the way, if you don't have an immediate family anymore, or you don't have a good relationship with your immediate family, this is also about building a tribe that can be your immediate family. Maybe you meet someone and get married and their family becomes yours, and that becomes your new immediate family. Maybe it's really about creating a unconventional family of, friends who become best friends and almost like brothers and sisters, or a mentor, or, parent figure. All of these kinds of things are things that I want you thinking about. But hopefully you can start seeing through these patterns and seeing how you can bolster yourself and get better. So I'm going to end the podcast here. I hope this was interesting for you to just get an introduction into the way I sort of look at these 4 human jobs. And one interesting thing about this before I go that's interesting, if you look at, I'm, obviously an internet entrepreneur and do a lot in the internet space. And if you think about it, I recently just came to this understanding. I was like, isn't it interesting that the 4 human jobs are actually the big sellers on the internet? If you want to be thinking about people in the creative space, it really is about money, physical fitness, relationships, and self-development and finding meaning. Those are all the areas where people spend money sort of online when you're talking about services or info products, right? People spend on those things. So it's really interesting because we can see that when we look out there in the world of informational products in the internet space, we can see that these 4 jobs hold true, right? That's where people are spending their money. There's not, you might be able to make money, for example, with some products or, with knitting or something like that, but you're really going to make the most money in these spaces. The things that make the most money are in the realm of health and fitness, teaching people how to make money, teaching people how to find romance and sort of fix relationships, and teaching people how to find happiness and meaning and sort of personal success. So I just wanted to point that out. I find that interesting. So hopefully this is useful for you to give you a little bit of insight into the mindset part of this podcast. And I will see you at the next podcast.